everybody, this is Justin with I'm Your Aid Astrology. Welcome back. Happy Mars retrograde season. I'm sure it's been treating all of you very well. Those of you that may be dealing with a little bit of anger, frustration, rage, why don't you go ahead and punch that like button? I promise you'll feel better. Today's topic is the new moon in Libra, which is highly charged, if you haven't already noticed. I wanted to talk about kind of more of the psychological depth of this combination of aspects and some creative ways to navigate these times. Also, we have the lovely Mercury, who has gone retrograde yesterday. So, doesn't 2020 just feel like an ongoing, nonstop retrograde period? Let's get to the charts. All right. Let me bring me back so you can see me a little bit. Okay, so the big player in, as you can see, as usual, like the theme of the entire year, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, always just causing some trouble this year. And we see that we have a exact square with the new moon. How do we know it's a new moon? Well, the sun and the moon are conjunct. If the moon was in opposition of the sun, that would be a full moon. And then we have Mars, lovely Mars in Aries. So when we have two 90-degree angles in conflict met with 180-degree opposition, this is what's typically known as a T-square in astrology, as many of you may know. Also, we have Uranus and Mercury contributing this conversation, and then Neptune in an opposition with Venus. Oh man. So first of all, let's cover Mars. Mars has been Mars wants what it wants when it wants it. Mars wants everything yesterday. Mars tends to be impulsive. Mars tends to leap without looking. Now, not to, I'm not bashing Mars. We need Mars in society. Mars takes action, it's initiative, makes things go. It's our willpower, it's our strength. But Mars is in conflict right now, right? So what do we have here? We have Mars. Mars wants to move forward. Mars is sick of running in quicksand. And Mars wants to move forward. And the combination of Saturn and Pluto, and then, Jupiter amplifies it. Saturn is restricting Mars. Saturn is retarding Mars. And then what's the result of Mars not getting what it wants? Pent up fits of explosive rage. Jupiter and Mars is an overreaction to something. It's Mars square Jupiter to me is, I call it kick the dog syndrome. Right? Let's say you walk into your house and your dog has made a mess on the floor, and you just explode on your companion animal. You're not angry at the dog crapping. You're basically upset about the entire day, how you bit your tongue, whether it was at work or social media or whatever. And then it shows and it expresses itself in a very aggressive, pent up way. So And also with this Mercury in opposition to Uranus, this, it creates a little of anxiety. There could be some, within Mercury in Scorpio, deep investigation. So really kind of obsessing. And then you have Venus in an opposition to Neptune. This often means like financial deception in relationships, deceit, undermining, lying. If Mercury was, a part of this conversation with Neptune and Venus, that's like fake news. So, and it's not, but it's in opposition. So there's some sudden information that comes in that flips us on our head. We don't have all the information. We don't know all the truth, right? Because with Venus and Neptune, things are just kind of muddy. And it could just bring on this explosive reaction. And a T-square in nature is crisis. So what I always like to do is give some examples of how this shows up in our lives, right? So I'll give you an example. I'll use myself and my wife as an example. This week, we had unexpected news, Mercury and Uranus, that my wife's unemployment benefits are due to expire. We just found out that there'll be no longer any benefits. This is affecting my second and eighth house access. So eighth house is other people's money. In this case, my wife. What does this do? Well, my stellium right now is in the fourth house, home. That it creates limitations. It creates setbacks in the home. There's a lot of things that we wanted to do repair-wise around the home. We had projects scheduled for every quarter. Now Mercury is in retrograde in my second house, so I need to go in and rebudget. I need to rethink my finances. I need to create a different a budget plan. So, and earlier in the week, we had Venus in a sextile with Mercury. So there has been earlier this week some aid. An example of this is, one of the ways we're dealing with the hardship is trying to stay creative. So my wife has been painting and drawing. I've also been doing some kind of creative writing. So Mercury and Venus and sextile, that's loving thoughts, creative writing, journaling. So there's some outlets here because there's something very passionate that needs to be expressed. Venus is also in a trine with the stellium, so it's becoming deeply passionate about something. And Neptune and sextile with its stellium here. This is ushering in transformation. Now, new moons are new beginnings, but with this T-square, I feel like it's almost like a full moon and new moon hybrid, because there's a culmination point here. There's a separation. There's a conflict. I have Mars in retrograde in my 7th and 2nd house. I've been having a really hard time with relationships in the one-on-one variety. I have not only have strange relationships with my family, which is the stellium in the 4th house. I've also have transitioned a lot of friendships. I've lost friendships this year that have even been best friends. And then one-on-one work relationships. There's been a lot of deception, undermining, lies. Some of it's been public, some of them has been behind closed doors. So I've really had, my intensity is in all things relationships. And what's causing that? So the stellium. So you have Saturn and Pluto. It's almost like you're just all in that, in whatever house this is placed. It's like deep, intense. It's like an all-in mentality, focusing all of our resources in this specific place. Now, and this is all happening in other people's different houses. So for me, it's the 4th. This stellium could be the 7th house. There could have been an extreme focus or obsession in relationships. If it's the 10th house, it's extreme obsession in the workplace. Example. So what does this mean? So there's a crisis here. So with that being said, the new moon is trying to bring us something new into our lives, something that may spark some passion. Venus trine the stellium. But there's an old adage in spirituality that would suggest that you can't receive anything new unless you create space. So I think out of crisis comes a rebirth. Neptune sextiling that stellium, there's an opportunity for transformation. There's opportunity to be in a better place. Mars is being really impulsive right now. A lot of people have been reaching out, wanting to take action on something, but it is not a time to initiate anything new, especially with Mars in retrograde, and certainly with Mercury in the conversation. Like I said last video, it's taking small, tangible steps. A lot of people are reaching out to me needing a change, and they're making decisions that may bring a more difficult outcome than without even engaging in general. To make a change just to make a change for the sake of change is not the most benevolent outcome. This is hard energy. I had to sit with this. I have to sit with my anger. I have to sit with my frustrations in relationships. And here's what I came. Mercury in Uranus will bring you an epiphany, a eureka moment. And for me, here's what I've come up with. Earlier in my life, due to narcissistic trauma, I've always tended to be very submissive in relationships. I get into a work relationship or a romantic relationship or a friendship relationship, and I give all of myself. I give all of my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual self. The old cliche, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And earlier in life, I would focus my energies in different places. At one point, I was obsessed with my career. When I was in marketing, when I was younger, I was a baseball player, a basketball player. I was obsessed. I would practice 6-8 hours a day. Nuts. When I first entered astrology, I took every class you could find on the internet. I, mentored with, in my opinion, the most elite astrologers in the field. All of last year, I've probably spent on an average of 30 hours a week continuing my education with advanced astrology skills, which is good. But here is what's going on. In my hand here, I have a deck of cards. And this deck of cards represents this stellium with Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter, right? For me, I put this stellium in my 4th house, and it's in conflict with my 7th. And obviously, when you look at house rulership, there's a bigger conversation at play. So behind me, this is the house I built of baseball cards. What area in your life have you been all in on? To the point where I've been all in one category, one theme in my life. And here's what this new moon in Libra is going to do. I'll use, let's say, this is in your 10th house of career. Let's say everyone has relationships. We'll talk about relationships. Let's say the stellium's in your relationship house. Let's say, I'll use myself as an example. Let's say that this is my house that I built. This is my house of astrology cards that I built myself. I put all of my heart and soul and resources and time into my house of astrology cards. Now, what happens this new moon? What happens when something happens? What if conflict or a crisis happens to that house of cards? The cards come crashing down. What's left? Well, I'll tell you, there's not much left. In this area, there's been so much focus, attention, energy, consciousness put into that. When something happens to that in which we've been nurturing, there's no relationships, there's no other career. It's like you lose it all because you put all of yourself into one thing. Let's say this is in your career house. Let's say the cards fall in your 10th. You put your entire energy and existence into your career to the point where you've neglected family, you've neglected your friends, you've neglected relationships. Pluto in the 10th house is kind of people trying to reach the top. It's like ego without consciousness. It's like getting to the top of the mountain and not giving a shit of who you stomp on along the way. Where in your life have we created cognitive dissonance? Here's the answer. Look at the North Node. For the next 18 months, the North Node is in Gemini. Gemini represents community, siblings, short distance travel, learning or teaching basic skills. And Gemini is, the jack of all trades and the master of none. But you still have the stellium. So there could be this deep granular obsession. Gemini is asking you to diversify your physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental currency, to not put all your eggs in one basket. You could have that focus, but put that energy into multiple things. Yes, for me, I do need to have keep focus of my 4th house. But it's causing conflict in other areas. So I need to distribute that stellium evenly and become a granular in the 4th house, in the 7th house, in the 10th. Doesn't matter. Diversify. Because if you put everything into a relationship, into your career, maybe it's in your 1st house, maybe into yourself. Maybe you've been so into yourself that you've lost track of everything else. But wherever this stellium is in your chart, Understand what it's asking from you. Uranus is in play. Uranus is the course corrector. If we're not on the right path, Uranus will shake our foundation, ultimately to liberate us and be the course corrector and put us on the right track. For me, I put all my energy into astrology. I haven't been growing my other business. I've been wanting to get into other investments. I need to diversify. Because what happens is when that house of cards comes down, it's almost attached to our identity. Chiron's in Aries. We're having an identity crisis. What we built was on false pretenses. We built our past life on conditioning, acceptance, group thought, group think. Yes, it's important in this, there could be a lot of deceptive communication, wanting us to react. When we react to anything, that's when we give our power away. Whatever happens to you, don't feel victimized. Understand that Uranus is coming to liberate you and bring you something new. New moon in Libra. Libra is trying to instill balance in a very unbalanced world. Again, we still have a wider sextile with Mercury and Venus. Take your problems to your journal. Art therapy. Mars needs to be worked out in some way. I wouldn't get involved in competitions, but you could work with Mars one-on-one. For me, I've been just trying to go to the gym more, take care of my, my pent-up frustrations on the weights. So there's definitely outlets here. Again, with the North Node, learn something new. Like I'm learning about baseball card investment. I'm looking at maybe getting an investment property. I'm placing my energies in 4 buckets instead of 1 bucket. Still very dedicated to astrology. Quite frankly, this is the problem. It's become my obsession. And I need to diversify my own energy. Learn a new skill. Get connected with your community. Meet your neighbors. Bake your neighbor a pie and drop it off unexpectedly. When all this chaos going on, be charitable, right? Be extra nice. I was in line at Target to return something and I had my stupid mask on. And when the person left in front of me, I put my mask down. So when the cashier looked at me next, I looked at her and I smiled, which you can't see anymore in this society. I smiled, put my mask on. I walked up and said, hello, good morning. How are you? I always address people by their name, especially with a name tag. When you smile at someone, even if they're in a bad mood, they kind of have to smile back or they're kind of rude, right? Mercury and Uranus is with this combination with Mars, it's going to say things without thinking. It's going to reacting to things without thinking. If you get a kind of a gnarly text or an email, 24-hour rule. Don't respond until 24 hours. When you revisit the text or the email or the conversation 24 hours from now, there's a less emotion attached to it. When you speak to anyone, and I've given this example numerous times, but sorry, Mars has been kind of a key player. When you deliver information, when you speak to someone, before you say anything, ask yourself, truth, how can I express myself in a way that this person can receive with ease, grace, and glory. I am asking for the most benevolent outcome. When you react, you're giving your power away. When you react, you lose. Diversify your physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual currency. Leave in the comments below of these next 2 months, what are you going to learn new? What are you going to maybe, Gemini is also teaching basic skills. Are you going to maybe teach something these next couple months? Would that give you a level of reciprocity? Let me know how all of you are handling this energy. I hope this was a contribution. Mercury and Scorpio, some deep hidden secrets might come to the surface, which might cause this anger with Mars and Saturn, and Mars and Pluto is pretty, Mars and Pluto, it's ruthless competitiveness, but Mars and Pluto takes things by force. It's aggressive. It's rage. If this stellium was in the 8th house, it could be, some very extreme violation. Ground. Take your problems to your mat. I've been hanging out with Yoga with Adrienne almost every day, and she has, and I might leave this after the video, she has yoga for anger. And I think it would be a contribution to everybody to review that video. And I think it would bring you some ease during these times. In closing, thank you for watching this video. I am going through a social media detox. I have not been on Facebook for the last couple of months. I just uploaded some wedding pictures recently. I'm not really engaging on social, especially around this election period. I have not, I have, maybe this is for a separate video. I have really good results of taking a social media break. From a marketing perspective, it's very stupid for me to be doing this, because this would be my only way for people to find me. Honestly, I do this channel for my clients. Not all of my clients follow me on YouTube, which is fine. There's incredible astrologers out there. Weekly updates. I could go on. I could name at least 5 people that are very valuable to follow. This channel is a little bit more psychological with the astrology. And I do tend to bring a shamanistic approach to the stars. So that might not be for everybody. However, if you do like this content, please punch that like button. Please enter your comments. Let me know how you'll be using the highest available energies to get through this Mars retrograde. And share, text it, share it on your own social media platforms. Clearly I'm not doing any of this for the money. I'm really dedicated to my clients, and I feel I want to give something back to them, especially when the times are gnarly. That way you guys don't have to pay me every time something crazy happens in your life. These videos could kind of give you a 40,000 foot view. And if it is really dicey, feel free to reach out. I really value all of you, and you brought a lot of reciprocity and fulfillment to my life. So thank you again for following me, liking, subscribing, sharing, all of those things. If you feel this message would help someone please pass it along. Again, thank you for tuning in. This is Justin with I'm Your Aid Astrology. I'm not your coach. I'm not your guru. I'm not your guide. I'm your aid. I'm your angel in disguise. I help you, empower you. Until we meet again, may you walk in beauty. Aho.